Cool, we're live, and thanks everybody for watching, for tuning in. I'm Mormo, Zine, star of stage, silver screen, print, and this show is the Mormo Zone. Okay, I had and on this show I talk about horror and punk rock. Oh, cool, Billy's here, and tonight I'm having guest Alexander Cooper, who made an awesome movie called Parallel, which was kind of like an erotic thriller and paranormal thriller, and really great movie. I enjoyed it a lot. I watched it on my laptop, and it was really cool. And so I wanted to have him come on the show and talk some about it. And Alexander, how would you describe the plot of Parallel?
Well, the plot of the film, it's kind of like a paranormal romance in a way. It's written by a guy, the story was written by a guy called David McGowan, who's a Scottish writer. And it's quite unique in the indie scene of films nowadays. It's very much an actor's film, so it's relying on the performances rather than any kind of big sort of special effects or anything like that. But it's basically a high concept thriller, and so there's this couple, they meet, they fall in love, and then one day they're in the park and they happen upon this mysterious Mackless who turns out to be a medium, and sort of one thing leads to another, and they kind of get addicted to going to see this guy to take them to another place, to show them, another existence that they couldn't see.
Yeah.
It
shows, and it uses really creative camera work to like show this alternate reality that they can travel to, and see visions of what could be in this alternate reality. It was really great, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you liked it, Momo. Yeah, I mean that idea of going to a place which looks on the surface, really similar to where we are right now, but then actually it's totally different, and it's kind of very dark and very dangerous. It's also kind of very seductive, because there are obviously very sexy things going on, and just sort of different. It's almost like the flip side of your current existence. So if you could have a sort of very vanilla sort of normal life, and then in your parallel existence you might be, someone totally different. I mean, I might be Freddy Krueger or something. I don't know what my opposite would be. Maybe it would be. Who knows? Who knows? But I think it's a very, very interesting concept, and it asks the audience really, what would your alternate existence look like? What is the parallel, and do you have one?
Yeah, I really like how it was a actor's movie where the emphasis was on the acting, and that's what really drew me into the story and kept me guessing the whole time. And Billy's in the room. He says Alexander is British. Cool.
British cool.
Yeah. So
that's nice. Yeah, I mean, we did our best with this film. Obviously, it was the first time, that I'd produced anything. I'd always wanted to make something ever since, I was a little kid and going and see films. I'd kind of been interested and wondered, if it's possible to do it myself, but then for a long time not really knowing how to go forward, didn't have a script, or just had no clue really. But eventually I came to a time in my life where there were a lot of changes going on. My father had died, and various things had happened which weren't so great for me, and I kind of realized that I wanted to produce a film for a long time, and I thought there is no better time than now. And then it was at that point where I started looking around for this script, and it's funny, sort of one thing leads to the next. I'd read a little book about it was a guy called Dove Simmons who had done a book for Quentin Tarantino, of course, and
Yeah.
was, there's other directors who've read his book, and it's, if anyone ever asked me, oh, what do I do to make a film, I would always point them to Dove Simmons, because he sort of cuts through to really what making a film is about. And I mean, to me anyway, I was never wanting to make a short film really. I just wanted to go straight and make feature films and tell a story. So
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I'm really passionate about filmmaking myself, and it's been a lifelong obsession for me. And that's, I'm really wondering where you got your actors for your movie.
okay, well, the main guy, the David McGowan, he wrote it, but he wanted to play the lead of Neil, so that sort of figured that out. And then there was a couple of people for the other leads. So Faye Sewell, we found her through an acting website. I think it was Star Now. We found a few. Star Now is an Australian site, but they have a UK website. And then sort of various other people came into the mix through kind of different ways. We'd been going out for drinks in a pub in London, and we happened to meet, the guy, there's a scene where there's a psychologist, in the office.
In the office, when they're in the office and the boss brings in the specialist.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one I'm thinking of. Now, this chap we literally just met in the pub, quite randomly, and told him about it, and he ended up sort of, he wanted to do it, so, and he fit, so we were like, okay, that's cool. And sort of other people, because originally, Rihanna, the character of the dark girl, the parallel girl.
Yeah.
Because she originally was totally different. It was going to be another girl who was Australian, and she was blonde. And then the day before we started shooting, this other girl had dropped out, and then Francesca, who was going to be playing another role, had to be bumped up to the bigger role. So yeah, I mean, it's one of these things that's kind of like different methods of getting people to do it. And the guy who played Roy, the Irish chap, the kind of evil guy in the parallel. I met him. I met the guy who played him on a set of another film. It's funny because we were both being extras in this other film, and I told him about Parallel, and I was like, "You remind me of someone." It's almost because I thought he had a certain look about him that was quite cool. He reminded me of Tom Hardy a bit. and I just thought, right, see if he wants to do it, and turned out to be a decent choice. He was a good guy.
That's great.
So you know, I really can't complain. There were sort of that guy I mentioned, Dan Westwood, by the way. So yeah, there were various methods we used.
What about the actor who played the psychic?
Okay, this chap, we have been looking around on some websites for, you know, like actor websites over in the UK. I think there's one called Film and TV Pro. So that was the one that was maybe slightly harder to find. Brian Carter. He was the chap who ended up playing Mackless and did a great job. The other ones, we didn't really have so much problem finding the cast. Oh, I should say, there was one person who was quite hard to find. So towards the end, there's a very sort of sexy scene with some nudity, and I was actually struggling to find someone who would do that. Will do what we wanted. So eventually, I was putting all sorts of ads out and trying to find someone on like Gumtree and, you know, different websites. Because sometimes, you know, the acting ones, they can be a bit funny if you're asking for nudity or they want. And eventually, I found I put an advert somewhere else. I actually cannot remember. It's one of these things, but basically, I came in contact with this porno star called Tasha Holes here.
Nice.
And yeah, well, she basically was able to do it, and obviously, it wasn't a big deal for her because by the nature of her, you know, job. It really was not an issue, and she was very professional and very cool. So, yeah, it was.
That's
really
a great answer, man. That really helps me out. That putting out adverts, you put out advertisements in papers and find websites for casting, and
Yeah.
that I'm really glad to hear that. I'm going to try that. Kimber asks, "What was my favorite scene?"
What I advise if you're looking for cast is really to keep an open mind, because you could have the perfect people, like maybe your friends wanted to play a part, or I'm not saying this is an ideal way of doing it, but I think you can find cast anywhere. Like there is no kind of limitation. If you find the right person, you know, in the shopping mall, just ask them, because you never know, maybe they're interested. Not everyone, of course, you know, is confident, but you just never know who you're going to meet. They might be perfect for it.
Yeah, I live in a tourist town, so I've been thinking about trying to get tourists involved in my movie making projects. Like I'm making a movie called Hillbilly Worm, and I was thinking about like punking some tourists and stuff. And Cal's in the room. What's up, Cal? And Kimber asked what was my favorite scene in the movie. There was a lot of great scenes, but there was one where the psychics, the boyfriend is all mad and threatening the psychic, and the look on the psychic's face was just so classic when he said, "Yeah, come on in. If that's what you want, then that's what you'll get." It was really fascinating. I love psychic stories and stories about the gifted people and everything. And
well, the writer of Parallel was heavily influenced by the works of David Lynch. So I don't know if you're a Lynch fan, or
yeah, definitely. And Odd Shaped Panel actually does or they used to do a Twin Peaks show, and they love David Lynch, and they were doing a recap show about his new series on Showtime, and anybody can check that out on the channel. And
I haven't seen the new series, but I've seen, you know, a lot of David Lynch's films, and, you know, respect what he did, and so yeah, it's been influenced by that, and then it was also influenced by like Paul Verhoeven films, although maybe that's not so obvious, but you know, David and I like Paul Verhoeven. There's, you know, the Thriller, obviously on a big budget Hollywood thing, but, you know, we both think like Basic Instinct's basically a bit of a classic in the genre. And
oh yeah, definitely. And Showgirls, and didn't he do the one with the
yeah,
space bugs?
not people really liked that film, and then it came to what was it, you know, the DVD or the home video, and it got its audience. But I thought, you know, Showgirls is great fun, and you know, I enjoy it for what it is. I think it's a very entertaining film. It's a bit of escapism, and it's kind of a trip to Vegas. Really, that's what that film is about to me. But you know, I
Yeah, it
think
was great. And what was the one with the bugs in space?
Bugs in Space. What of Verhoeven's one?
Yeah, it was a Paul Verhoeven movie where it was like the military going to fight
Oh, you're
these
thinking,
bug
yeah,
creatures.
you're thinking
Starship
Starship
Troopers.
Troopers.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
I didn't think I'd like that one, but it had that stuff from RoboCop, which I appreciate, like this sort of satirical look um, at the world, and you know how things are presented on TV and adverts. You know, I remember some of those things in Starship Troopers where they're advertising for the Marine Corps, and, you know, have a great life, and, you know, go away and kill some bugs. But of course, you know, in the commercials, they're showing that this is a great way. And then of course in the commercials they're not showing everyone getting blown to smithereens, and you know, the other side of it. Um, so, you know, I do like Starship Troopers, but it wasn't one of my favorites of his films. But you know, I liked it more than I thought I would, because I thought, oh, this is just going to be stupid. But um, no, it was a good movie.
yeah, I really got a kick out of it. I enjoyed it. I remember seeing it on the big screen, and I thought it was pretty fun. I've liked all of Verhoeven's movies as far as I can tell, or as far as I know. Tom was saying that the new Twin Peaks series is more like the films, like Fire Walk with Me, the series is what the new series of Lynch Twin Peaks was like. And thanks so much, everybody, for being in the chat room and chatting it up. I appreciate you guys, Cal and Billy and Kimber. And let's so how I heard that this movie's gone to some film fests. Like, could you tell me a little bit about the film fest experience?
Yeah, I mean, festivals. We haven't been picked out for any sort of the massive, well-known festivals, but we did get picked out for some of them. Um, and you know, they've been a good experience, but you know, some of them were in Australia and, you know, the States, and sadly I haven't been able to attend in person as yet. um, Maybe that will change for future ones, but they've been a bit remote as far as my attendance has been. um,
Do you get a lot of reviews when you do film fest? Like, do you get blog write-ups and stuff like that?
Well, we do. I mean, the thing is, I've been putting this film around just really to anyone who will watch it, and I don't mind if someone says something bad about it, or I obviously love to hear that people like it. That's great. But also I like to hear what's not working, because at the end of the day, we did what we could with what we had at the time, and that there was stuff that we could have done, looking back, maybe better. Um, but we got into a few film festivals. So there was London one, the monthly film festival. We got into this virtual festival called IndieWise. There was one called Postmortem, Broken Knuckle, another one. There was the monthly film festival, and there was one in Barcelona as well.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so it gets. I think the good thing is just to get it seen by as many people as possible, because no one knows me, and kind of like I just need people to see it. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult to kind of think more if you don't already have enough people who like what you do. Um,
Yeah.
you've got to kind of, it's tricky. You you don't have an audience yet because no one knows me, and it's you sort of rely on those people to kind of get the word out for you a bit, because it's not like with the big studios where they have the setups and they've got the huge budgets, and they've got the massive marketing budgets and all that. Like my cousin is she's making films. She's an actress, and she is in these big movies. So she stars alongside the big Hollywood actors, the Tom Cruises and all that. And what I do is at the moment is very very different. Is making stuff with unknown people. So
Yeah, I heard that a modern horror movie has a marketing budget of 20 million, or else they don't make the big screen.
yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, they have significant thing, and the indie is just totally different. I mean, with mine, I literally try and contact people myself, and contacting people through Twitter, podcasts. Um, it's a very very different thing, um, until maybe at some point, hopefully, um, I become a bit better known, and then I can maybe say, look, we've got a script here, and people will maybe listen to me more. Um, but for now, I just self-produce the odd film, and so Parallel was one. I've got another film which I'm producing. It's in post-production. It's called Sandow. It's a very very different thing. It's a sports film, actually. It's a sports drama.
Yeah,
So
Tom was asking about it. He says it's like an old English boxing movie, if he's correct.
well, yeah, it's kind of like a wrestling film, and it's inspired by a guy who founded bodybuilding, he was known as Sandow, and I found the whole scene of like the strongman scene, really, it was like, this needs to be a film, man. Why isn't there a movie about that subject? Because to me it was fascinating, because just not that long ago, this was the thing. Before NFL or all that, you go and see the strongmen perform, and everyone wanted it. This guy
Yeah.
Sandow was like a sex symbol, and it was just all very cool. I had this image in my head of the guy as like this super huge like rock star, like in Victorian times, just with a crazy traveling lifestyle, and I wanted to convey some of that, in the film.
Tom
So
asked if you liked the movie Bronson.
I do actually. Yeah, I was a big fan of that Bronson film. Tom Hardy was great in it, and there's a lot. Yeah, that film has kind of inspired quite a lot. Um, Specifically things like, I don't know, the soundtrack choice in Bronson is very kind of electronic, and um, there's a few, in parallel, the music that I picked out that was sort of electronic and kind of very sort of 80s. Um, so yeah, it's been influential to me, that movie. I liked it.
Yeah, Kimber really likes it too. She says she loves Bronson.
Yeah,
And
it is a great
Cal
movie. I mean,
asks if it. Cal's saying Damien Sandow ? That's
who
somebody
is?
else, I think.
Sorry, who's in Sandow? I didn't catch that.
Oh, Cal was asking if it's about Damien Sandow.
No, it's not. Well, it's fictionalized, so it's not actually about the guy, because obviously I've been heavily inspired by this guy who's called Eugene Sandow, who was the strongman who performed and traveled. But it's not kind of like a biopic. It's not, you know, there's stuff in there which it's made up. It's a story, and it's kind of been influenced by my own experiences, and so it's not, even though some of these guys existed, and the story is told by a guy called Elliot, who he was a real guy as well, but I've got no idea what he was like as a person, except that there were some people by that name. you know that's
Yeah, it
um
sounds great. When is that? When is it? What is you said it's in post production right now?
yeah, I mean, this has been like um something that's kind of pulled me on, and I it's just something I wanted to make for like it seems like so many years, man. It's hard, but it's kind of hard to put it into words. Like, I've wanted this film to exist for such a long time that when I finally have it there, and like it will be a bit funny, because I'll be like, yeah, well, you wanted it, and finally you did get it in some way. Originally, I'd envisaged that this was going to be like a huge budget, Hollywood thing. And then eventually because I came around to the way of seeing filmmaking as like, you've just got to do your best with what you've got at the time. And that's really what I've done with Sandow, because I wanted everything. I wanted to recreate, the everything in a very kind of expensive and lavish way, but obviously that wasn't going to be possible. So I kind of had to approach it in my own way, and that's what I've done. It's it's not what I originally thought it would be, but it's still cool, and hopefully.
Yeah, I think that's the only way movies get made is you gotta like compromise your vision to fit what you have your resources, and or not compromise, but like
Yeah,
just do your best and use your resources to your best
yeah,
advantage. And
absolutely. And I think that you should never be put off by thinking you can't, because I would rather just, even now, think about making a film as like a stage play. Um, I think that's a great idea for someone who's starting a film. Think of something that you can just get some actors, rehearse them on a stage, and film it. And doing it that way, you can do it very quickly, and you can make something really, really good and entertaining. Obviously, it's not going to be. It's going to look like an indie film, but for your first film, it's the way to do it. You don't. Um, like I sometimes see people, like totally unknown people, and they're trying to raise money, and it just seems to be totally unrealistic, because even they're asking like £500,000 or, you know, $1 million or something for your first film. No one's going to give you that money, you know. It's like not realistic at all. So you've just got to think, well, what can you do at the moment? What do you believe in? What do you think is a good script? And then you make it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about doing that myself, because I know you can't see me, but I have a green screen behind me, and I'm thinking about making my own kind of paranormal romance movies, but just in
Yeah,
front of a green screen, so I can put the set digitally behind me
yeah,
and kind of
yeah,
cut corners and save money there, and do different locations and stuff.
yeah.
And only film in a couple hours, you know.
Well, I think it's a good idea. The guy I know, Dave McGowan, and the editor who did Parallel, the video editing anyway, he has done this himself with some small, some small films he's done, and yeah, you can get good results. I think probably, um, well, probably it's better to get the locations if you can, but obviously, if you're doing like a sci-fi film, you can't build a set of like a spaceship, whereas on a green screen, you can do these things.
Yeah, I just make
So,
digital art and then put it on the green screen. Let me ask you this question really quick. What would you think if I made a low budget movie, let's say under 500, and then I released it directly into the public domain? Do you think there would be benefits to creating movies to put into the public domain?
well, there may be the goal. What's your goal? So you want to do it really like super dirt cheap? Is it a feature film? Like, is it like what kind of length movie are you doing? Is it a short film or?
I can usually get around 45 minutes. I can usually get 45 minutes worth of content. That's about as far as I
Okay,
can go.
so is it like is it going to be a series of similar things? Because it may be something that you should go for, but so 45 minutes each one. It sounds more like it's like a series, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But if you were doing a movie, I'd say go and do that feature length. So do it like Parallel is not very long, right? It's like 78 minutes. That's not a long film. So as long as
No.
you've done it like over 60 or 70, maybe 70 minutes, then you've got a film, and then it's like, then you can enter it into things like festivals that are going for features, because otherwise you're going to be in a different category. These are things that may or may not be relevant to you. But if you're just thinking, right, I want to put this out and see what the reaction is, then maybe you can just put it as like a short, like you're saying. I think it just really,
Yeah,
yeah, it just really depends on what your goal is with it. Um, but you can put your content up, and it will eventually find its audience. It may not be. Oh, I don't know if it's going to be. Maybe it will be big. I honestly, I don't know what to say, but that's the advantage now for filmmaker. At least you can get it out somehow if you're doing it and
yeah.
putting.
I'm just thinking if I put it in the public domain, I can put it in libraries, and I feel like it'll have a long life. Like it'll still be relevant years later. You know what I mean? Because of being
Well,
in the public domain where anybody can use it or promote it or.
I like what have done with Prime, because Veselina, she's my wife, and she watches, content on Amazon Prime. So I like what they do. YouTube as well. I mean, you could put stuff on YouTube. The public domain stuff, I don't know about where else, but there's usually other options that I haven't even considered. But those are the ones that I've done. I mean, with the trailers, I put them on YouTube. I don't do so much of Instagram. I just haven't got into that much. I use Twitter quite a lot. So, I promote my stuff on Twitter, try and get people following that. But yeah, I mean, if you've got your YouTube videos, podcast sort of thing, video cast. So YouTube sounds like the thing to get, more people seeing your stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, YouTube's great. There's archive.org is one of the ones I was thinking of.
Okay.
As far as like libraries where, but I guess my theory is that, like, if I don't put a whole lot of resources into it, then freeing it up and allowing people to make copies and use it as they feel. It's because I'm kind of doing the whole horror host thing where I'm painting it up and talking about scary movies and stuff. So, and that's the horror hosts. They do the old movies like and watch them. We did that on OSP too, on Odd Shape panel. We watched some old public domain movies back in the past. And Randall's in the room. Hi, Randall. Thanks for showing up, man, and for chatting. I really appreciate that. And tomorrow night, everybody should be sure and tune in, because Encrypted is going to be on with Cal and Tom. It's about cryptozoology, which is a cool show. And so the other thing I wanted to talk about was Halloween, and I'm really interested in hearing about what Halloween's like in the UK.
Yeah, well, Halloween was, when I was a boy, it was always a massive thing because I have my birthday in August, but I'd usually be on a holiday, like a family holiday. So Halloween was always something I massively looked forward to, because I would have a party. Like, my parents would allow me to have a bit of a party at the house. And I live in a house, I'm not saying it's super old, it was built in 1832. And it has a cellar which we've now blocked off. My father blocked the cellar off because it had this radon gas coming up from underneath the rocks, which is not good. It's like a carcinogenic gas, so they blocked that off. But when I was little, they used to, like, there was a well, you see, and bats would come out of this well, so you could see the bats coming out.
Wow.
That would be sort of pretty cool for my imagination. And there was a time when my brother would rattle some chains in in this cellar. My brother would get, like, movies that 18 certificate movies. I mean, I saw RoboCop when I was about 6. So I was seeing all these things, and then there was The Fly. David Cronenberg was someone I watched a lot. And,
yeah, definitely. I'm a big fan of Cronenberg too.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things about his stuff, it's disturbing to, an adult to watch a movie like that. I think when you're older, though, your perspective can change, because, like, when I was a little kid, I obviously thought, oh, these things are disgusting, but you don't you do have a different perspective, because you realize, yeah, this film is actually talking about, disease, cancer, and having seen, my father go through a similar um, it's almost like a metamorphosis, you know, when someone has a terminal illness and you see them going from like this fit and healthy person to and seeing their decline, like in that movie The Fly. It is just, you
Yeah,
know,
I really like Dead Ringers, man. That one scared me with Jeremy Irons as the identical twins. They're identical twin
yes,
gynecologists. Did you see that one?
seeing Dead Ringers, that's also a very clever one because that's where they're the twins and they have this kind of such an intense, close relationship, but they can't, you know, it's disastrous, isn't it? I think in the end, as one of them kills the other one or something, they kill each other, don't they? Really?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think yeah, they end up killing each other at the end. Justin Thulu's in the room. He's gonna watch all the Romero movies for Halloween. And thanks for tuning in, Justin, and for commenting. Um, yeah, Halloween has always been my favorite. I've worked as an actor in haunted mazes for Halloween, and
So I was always dressing up as Freddy Krueger. Would you believe it?
oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I had a Freddy Krueger poster on my wall when I was a kid. I was a big fan of Freddy too.
It would follow you. His eyes would follow you around the room everywhere. I had the toy glove and everything. That was I was a big Freddy fan. Yeah, that was my thing.
What's the best way for people to watch your movie Parallel? Because it's that time of year where people want to watch like spooky paranormal movies and everything. Is Amazon the best place to watch it?
Yeah, that's the best one. I mean, I was on Vimeo, but Amazon parallelthefilm.com just takes you straight through to your Amazon page. And if you got Prime, then it's you know, included in that. But if not, it's pretty cheap. Kept the price down. So um, yeah, that's the best way, really.
Awesome. Tom says there's links in the description of the video where people can go and find Parallel. And I subscribe to Amazon Prime, and I find it's really great. Their collection of indie films and low budget and no budget films. It's really
I
worth
think
subscribing to.
it is worth exploring because sometimes these indie, you know, there are these hidden gems and interesting things on there, you know, by other people as well. I need to look into it myself more than I have been recently. Just it's been busy building this house again. Just giving it a bit of TLC.
That's awesome. Halloween is like 2.5 months long in America because they start putting out the decorations and the candy like before even September now.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's a big thing in the States. Yeah, I'd heard of that. And some of these costumes people have are just incredible. I'm always really impressed by the effort that some of these cosplay people do with their costumes. I mean, they're just phenomenal.
Yeah, last year I worked at the mall at a toy store and I had over 300 trick-or-treaters. It was so much fun handing out candy to so many kids. I had such a good Halloween last year. Do you do trick-or-treating in the UK still?
They do. We used to get quite a lot when I was in London because our flat, you know, it was a basement flat, so the kids could come down and we'd always give them, you know, some chocolate and stuff. Um, Here, there's the gate, so I don't know if it's open. They might be, but there will be people doing stuff and there'll probably be some fireworks and things. But obviously, you know, when I was a kid, that was when it was the big thing, and we'd be doing like the games, like chocolate game, um, and like pass the parcel, and we would have all these party games. It was a lot of fun, but obviously we'd do it all in costume. So you know, I'd usually be Freddy or possibly a vampire, Dracula or something. But it was always like my favorite time of year, pretty much.
Yeah, me too. And it's really great. I did fortune telling one year or a couple years, and had a pumpkin seed fortune telling method that I made some spare money on, and some extra money for October. And Cal's going to bed. Good night, Cal. Justin thinks there's going to be a lot of clowns this year for Halloween. And Tom says he had no trick-or-treaters. He had to go to the street to hand it out. And a lot of places in America now, people take their kids to malls or like downtown where they hand out candy. But going house to house is becoming less and less common here. It's more like big safe events at malls and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, I can understand that. Sometimes people would feel very threatened if, you turned up as Michael Myers at someone's door and asked for some, candy. Um, they'll probably, get out their 12 gauge, won't they? And I don't know. I see some of the weaponry that some people have, and you don't want to mess with some people. So, but you were saying about the clown thing, because that's a common fear with the clowns.
Yeah.
I think the original It for me will always be the real It, because seeing Tim Curry dressed up in that weird costume, it was really quite spooky. Um, Whereas I see the new one, and I actually haven't seen the new one. Quite often, I don't go for the remakes of the 80s and 90s movies. I don't feel like going for them often.
Yeah, I went and saw the Beguiled remake, and I thought it was terrible. And then I was gonna skip it, but then I thought, as somebody who paints up like a scary clown, I better go check it out. It
There
became
was
like an event more than a movie, and
yeah,
kind of.
it was like I saw once the Texas Chainsaw movie. Um, I actually thought the remake wasn't bad. It was all right. Um, and then there was also the Nightmare movie, wasn't there? Freddy remake, which I didn't see.
Yeah,
I didn't like the look of it from the trailer. It just didn't do it for me, so I didn't watch that. But it's whatever you're into, man. But I saw briefly. I saw your costume, and I thought there was something almost like similar to a clown-like vibe about it.
yeah. I call myself a clown sometimes. It's clown horror host, kind of the same thing in a way. I wish I could cash in on that blockbuster money, because it made record breaking money apparently. And we were
Yeah,
talking about Leatherface, and there's a new Leatherface movie that's on video on demand right now on Direct TV. And it's another one where classic franchise, proven money maker, but nobody's going to spend 20 million to market it, so it didn't go to. I guess it's going to get limited release the next month, and but it went straight to video on demand rather than the big screen, which is
yeah,
kind of disappointing, I think.
it happens a lot. It does happen a lot, but then I guess eventually it all depends. It's there's so many variables, but if it is, eventually it should get an audience, and it should do okay. Um, I think, because that's the thing. That's the flip side. Because there are directors who are very upset about the way things are going. But oh, sorry,
Hello.
my
Oh yeah, your video went out, Alexander. I can't hear you. Mr. Barrett's in the room. Hello, Mr. Barrett. And I remember some great scary Halloweens, man. It's uh it's still it's still fun, but I miss the old school Halloween too. And I guess I guess we lost Alexander, but everybody be sure and check out his movie Parallel, be sure and check out Sandow. Follow the Parallel or follow Alexander on Twitter and share his pinned tweet, and so that more people can see Parallel. It's a really great, spooky, paranormal erotic thriller, and it just really delivered. I highly recommend it. It was Jed's 2 weeks in a row with psychics, which kind of spooked me out too. I was getting a little spooked out about that while I was watching the movie. But Parallel definitely scared me, and I thought it was great. And so everybody be sure and check out Parallel, and check out the link in the description. I got a link to my Fiverr show. Alexander's next project is Sandow, which you should check out and find him on Twitter and follow his work. Upcoming, very promising upcoming filmmaker, and definitely check him out. What's coming up for me? I got my new book out, and it comes with a 43-minute training video. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that video yet. I'm putting up new videos on my YouTube channel. You can check me out over there. And you can find me on Twitter and Facebook and email and my website, mormozine.com, and anywhere. And thanks so much for watching, everybody. And thanks to everybody who came into the chat room and chatted it up. I really appreciate that, everybody. And thanks for watching. And that's a wrap, Tom.
This is the voice of Tom. Thank you, everyone, for joining the Mormo Zone. If you want to tweet at Alex, you can get his Twitter from the descript, or you can tweet at him at AlexCooper81. Don't forget to check out Encrypted tomorrow. Thank you so much for Mormo shouting us out. And we're going to be talking about the Wendigo and the myths surrounding it. Other than that, go to oddshapechannel.com as well as tweet at us at oddshapechannel. Kimber says hi, and have a great night, everyone. Thanks, Mormo.